Please, please stop ignoring your footwork. Footwork is highly underrated. It's the most underrated aspect of tennis. 9 times out of 10, people think that they miss a shot because of their technique in their upper body, their stroke technique, when the real reason they missed their shot is because their footwork technique was not on point. It didn't have the right techniques that you would learn from a proper coach or any coaches that are worth their grain of salt online or on my summits or elsewhere. And good looking strokes is a little bit like having a brand new, beautiful Ferrari with broken tires. You're not going to get where you want to go no matter how good your car or your strokes look. And people want that Ferrari look, but they forget about the tires. So it's actually more useful, as you see with a lot of grinders out there, especially at the amateur level, who have an ugly car, maybe the body's rusted, but the engine's still good. So the engine runs, the car runs. And then they don't forget about those tires. Maybe they got some really well inflated tires. They're at 32 psi, just like it says, on the front sticker, and they're good to go. Good quality tires. They're going to get where they need to go. And that's the importance of footwork. Highly underrated. It can get you where you want to go. And this episode was inspired by a recent mixed doubles practice match that I had with my partner Kate against Austin and Mariami. So shout out to all of them. We played a good first set, Kate and I, but we lost it 6-3. And I had this realization that during a bunch of shots that I missed, I felt like my footwork was out of sync. I felt off balance when I was hitting my shot, or I felt like I wasn't loaded properly. I wasn't there on time for the shot. So I was rushing my technique. And after we lost that set, I actually just told myself footwork intensity. I just decided to forget about everything else, keep it simple, focus on my footwork. And, Kate can attest to this. I told myself out loud several times in between several points footwork intensity, move your feet, move your feet, move your feet. And it honestly transformed the way that I played after that. I was all of a sudden being able to get into much better positions for my shots. I felt like I had more power behind my shots. I felt like I was hitting my shots more aggressively instead of, leaning back and being defensive. I also felt like I was just really ready to meet the ball instead of, reacting to shots. And I got to a lot more balls that were poachable. Whereas in the first set, I let some more balls fly there where I, felt like, damn, I should have, gone for that volley. And I did the second set a lot more. And so this all stemmed from the simple realization and then implementation of the need to up my footwork intensity. And, for me and for a lot of us, our footwork can become very slow and lazy, especially when we get nervous. I can count many times where I've had crunch time moments. Shout out Peter, crunch time coaching. And my footwork it's gone downhill. It's just, I don't move my feet and I just feel unbalanced and, no power behind the shot and, pushing the ball sometimes. And, I also feel that way when I'm just having an off day and I'm not in sync. I feel like usually the footwork is the first thing that I need to improve. So I have for you 5 keys plus a bonus to help you improve your footwork. Now, the first one is a little less specific to footwork, and this is to get a good dynamic warm up so that your muscles are warm and feeling mobile so that you can move well. Because we all know that when the body's cold, when we don't feel warmed up, then we're not going to be able to move well, right? So that's the first thing that is mandatory. So do not forget the dynamic warm up. If you have to leave your house 10 minutes before your scheduled match, then do it and then go and just do your jumping jacks, do your lunges, you do your monster walks, and your high knees, your butt kicks, things like that, your leg swings, some jump rope if you have that instead, or is to supplement, and that's going to help you a lot. Key number 2 is split step Do not forget the split step. I remember seeing a lady practice on her ball machine. She hit like 80 balls in a row, not split stepping. And I didn't want to interfere, but that's not what you want to do. You need to split step. Otherwise, you're going to be flat footed. I remember watching a video of my friend Ryan Reedy from 2 Minute Tennis. And I watched the video on my summit. So the summit, I get all these great coaches and every year. And so Ryan did a session on footwork technique, and he demonstrated like how if you do not perform a split step before every shot, we'll get into that in a second, then you're going to be caught flat-footed. You won't be able to react well. And so a lot of people ask about the timing of the split step. So the timing of this is that as your opponent strikes the ball, that's generally when you want to start your split step, when your opponent starts to strike the ball. And one key point of this, one key timing as well, is that you want to be in the air as your opponent is making contact with the ball. So you're actually going to be landing on the ground after your opponent has struck the ball. So there's a lot of misconception around that. But if you just go on YouTube and you type in tennis pro practice or tennis pro match, and what you can do, which is super useful, I do it all the time, is you go to the bottom right of the YouTube video. There's a settings button, and then you just click on that button. Then you click on speed, and then you click on 0.25, which I think is the lowest setting they offer. And then you watch the timing. You watch in slow motion. You're going to see the pro players, the best players in the world, and you can copy this. They start their split step as the opponent is striking the ball, and then they're in the air when the opponent makes contact with the ball, and then they land, after the ball has been struck. So copy this and keep practicing it, and you're going to really up your anticipation and movement and everything with the split step. So that is a big tip. Big tip number 3 is to move towards the ball at an angle rather than laterally. And this is a big thing for me. I'm trying to improve my game, and a lot of times, the problems that I encounter are the ones I like to talk about and figure out. And so I tend to move very laterally, especially on serve returns. So especially on the first serves, when I'm expecting a big serve, I tend to move almost completely laterally. But you don't want to do that because that's too defensive. It allows the ball to travel farther at an angle away from you. So this is terrible when you're facing slice serves, particularly because instead of moving up to meet the ball at an angle, you're letting the ball just veer off further and further. All you have to do is really just draw one line at an angle, and then draw lines going fully laterally versus a line that's going at an angle meeting that slice serve angle. And obviously the latter is much better. And instead, what you want to do again is to move both forward and at an angle to cut off these angled shots, especially, and then it'll also give you forward momentum. Sometimes the coaches even advise you to stand farther back, but then that'll allow you to move forward, split step, and then move at an angle. So that also gives you a lot of great momentum, and that's a fun and useful thing to practice. Tip number 4 is to think aggressively with your footwork. And it kind of goes in tandem with tip number 3, because if you think too defensively, and I've done this many times, if you think too defensively, then you're going to let balls come to you rather than you attacking the ball. When I have done this, I am hitting more defensive shots. I'm just purely reacting. I've actually missed shots like this because I'm moving backwards sometimes. It's really not a good place to be. You almost feel sometimes helpless, like, well, I'm just playing pure defense here. And sometimes, defense is fine, of course, and is helpful. But in general, you want to be the one who's, dictating on your own terms. And even if you're playing consistently, you're not backing off the ball. You're still at least holding your ground at the very least. I remember one of the coaches who I worked with, who coached Lee Na, who had won the Australian Open, he said that you want to have strong legs, and strong legs isn't moving backwards all the time. It's staying grounded and moving forward when possible, or at least, having strong legs and staying where you are. So think more of having your weight moving forward, moving to the ball, and attacking with your feet. And when you attack with your feet, then the rest of your body will follow, and that's gonna allow you to really dictate and feel great and hit big shots, smart shots, preferably. And then key number 5 is to practice basic footwork patterns. Okay, so you need to find a great coach who's really good with footwork. One that I've interviewed many times and had on my summits is David Bailey, and he is great. And or any other coaches that you find that are good with footwork. And you can also check out my tennis summit, which has a lot of footwork lessons on there. And then practice this footwork on court, even off court, even on your driveway, anywhere in the house with no shoes. Some of you wear shoes in the house, kind of weird to me, and maybe not so hygienic, but whatever. Besides the point, grab your tennis shoes, go on the court, go wherever, and practice these moves with no racket. And then once you have practiced a good amount, then practice with a racket swinging, and then but no ball. And then after you progress to next step would be with a ball, hand fed, these shots, practicing your footwork. Then you go towards practice rallies and practice points, and then practice sets. And then once you're comfortable, then integrate in the match. That's the best way to do it. Obviously, sometimes we're going to end up having to play a match without going through all these steps, which happens when you play a lot of USTA leagues. But regardless, try your best to practice these footwork moves with as little tension as possible, aka pressure, first before you integrate into your match play. And bonus tip is that you need to have good energy to have good footwork. Trust me, because footwork does take a lot of effort, takes a lot of energy, like I said. So you want to make sure that you nourish and hydrate yourself so that you can put max energy into upping your footwork intensity. Trust me, that's going to be big. I hope that you found this useful. Make sure to practice your footwork because it deserves a lot more focus than you're probably giving it. If you found this content useful, then I would really appreciate it if you would give it a like to confirm that. And with that, we'll see you next time. And until then, keep improving your tennis game.